guys can see the My Open Math page, right?
Yeah, let's.
Okay. So, as I mentioned last time, today is essentially going to be a lab day. We're just doing this lab 1 today. Ideally, you've had a chance to look some of it over. There's a link to it up in the calendar, but you can also link to it down here through the lab 1 link. That'll bring you up to this lab 1 page. You will use this page both to get access to that lab and to turn that lab in once you're done. It can take a little while to get it done. You've got some time. It doesn't have to be turned in today necessarily. So if we open up that lab 1, it's going to give us a download, and clicking on that will open up Excel. Now I'll have to switch over this to Excel. Now it always seems to open up on this end tab. I think that's how Svetlana saved this. So I might try to go in and fix that at some point. But if we go to the tabs at the bottom and tab over to the instructions, we'll get that main instruction page. Once you're done with the lab, we'll talk about the instructions for the lab in a minute, but once you're done with the lab, all you need to do is save that file. Once you save that file, you can go back to My Open Math and choose that file as the file you're going to download. So if you just click on Choose File, you can either go to where your files are stored, you can go to your, wherever you've stored that file. If you put it on your desktop, you just go to Desktop, but you can grab your Lab 1, click Open. It will say, hey, we're trying to download Lab 1. It says version 2 because I did it before this morning. And submit the question, and it will say, yay, you've successfully uploaded this lab. It'll take a while for it to be graded. I'll have to go in and grade them by hand. So it won't pop up with a grade automatically, but it should shortly. If it doesn't pop up or you don't see the grade pop up, let me know. I'll figure out why you guys can't see it, but usually it pops up. One of the reasons we're practicing this today is for some of your other assignments and for your exams. You're going to be needing to use this tool to upload your paperwork or upload scratch paper from tests so you can get some partial credit. So getting used to how to use this tool to upload documents for assignments is going to be important. It's going to be helpful. In terms of the lab instructions themselves, if you go down to under week 1, go down to the how to do lab, there are 3 videos here, part 1, 2, and 3. So for each of these videos, we're going to talk about the instructions for a different type of data. Each of them are a little bit less than 10 minutes long. And you're going to take the data that you collected. We talked a little bit yesterday about the fact that you'll need to be collecting some data for this lab. So you'll be collecting 50 discrete. Well, start with categorical. You'll be collecting 50 pieces of categorical data about anything you want. That's categorical data. 50 points of discrete data. Again, anything you want. That's discrete. And 50 points of continuous data. Anything you want. That's continuous. And then in each of these sections, you'll be looking at organizing that data, displaying that data, and answering some questions on that data. So if you haven't already, your first big job is going to be to go out and collect that data. It doesn't have to be anything terribly complicated. Say if you have something at home like a gram scale for cooking, you could you could weigh 50 pieces of pasta, and that's your data. Great. If you have a ruler, you could measure the length of spaghetti. I don't know why I'm fixated on pasta right now. You could, it doesn't have to be a terribly compelling data for your categorical data. It just has to be some non-numerical category. So, gosh, you could, go find 50 pens and list the colors of pens that you find. Most of them will probably be black, blue, or red, but you might find a purple pen around your house somewhere. I don't know. So it doesn't have to be anything particularly particularly dramatic or particularly hard to find or calculate. But I want to suggest that you try to collect some data about something you find particularly compelling. It is easier, really, and the process goes faster and more comfortably if it's data that you're interested in, data that you care about. Also, we will be doing other labs using data that you've collected, and your final project is going to be analyzing a set of your own data with all the tools we have and presenting that data to us as a class. So starting to think about what kind of data you might want to collect and do that analysis on, starting to think about that now is going to be helpful. And again, the more interesting to you that data is, the more useful to you that data is, the more interesting, the more fun that can be. Not that measuring pasta can't be fun, but if it's something that has to do with a hobby of yours or your work or your family, it can be a little bit more, just less tedious to deal with large sets of data. So keep that in mind. But it doesn't have to be anything overly dramatic. And you'll see the examples in the videos. The data is fairly simple. That's okay. So really the plan today is, if you haven't watched those videos, grab them and watch through them. If you have already watched them, great, you can jump right into the lab. I do recommend watching the videos a bit before you jump in, or even before you collect your data necessarily. You can collect your data first. You guys know what the difference between continuous, discrete, and categorical data is. But if you're unsure about that, feel free to watch the videos first. She does talk a bit about the difference between categorical, discrete, and continuous. So once you've done that and you jump into the lab, I'm just gonna kind of be here until nobody else is here, or until about 12:50, until our schedule ends, at which time we'll trundle off. If you're done with the lab by then, great, you can submit it. If it takes a little bit longer for you, particularly if you have to collect lots of data, if you haven't started that yet, then it might take a bit, but you can submit it whenever you get that done. So really, I'll just kind of be here to answer any questions that come up. If you have questions about Excel, or if you have questions about any of the videos or the data, I'll just kind of be here. So if you want to ask me questions about it, that's great. If you want to go off, and if you're fairly comfortable with the idea and you want to go off on your own and work on it, feel free to do that too. So our open lab days will mostly just be you guys working on the labs, and if you want to come here and ask stuff, I'll be here for that. Any questions about any of that? No, Kim?
No.
Isaac, Grace, what about you two?
Oh.
None at the moment, but that's why we're here, right? In case
Yep.
stuff does come up.
Okay.
Okay, so dive into that. I'm going to turn my microphone off just so the random noises here aren't distracting. But I'll keep my earphone in as much as possible. So if you need to shout at me, don't shout too loud, but get my attention. Most folks in the last class who had questions, they just sent me little private chats. You feel free to do that. If you want to send a chat out in the open, you can do that too. Or if you want to ask me over the mic, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. Please do ask questions if you've got them. At some point, I'll have to stop talking so you can work. Okay. Jump in, have fun with it, and let me know.